Ugly motherfucker.
So today we're going to be talking about the movie Prey, which came out in 2022 direct to streaming on Hulu. And whenever you hear that a franchise as big as something like Predator has now gone direct to DVD or direct to streaming, it kind of feels like it's a death sentence for the franchise. Like, it's as if The Predator, the previous movie, was so bad that it doomed the fate of the entire series from this point forward. And although I really wish this movie had come out in movie theaters, I can say that even though it didn't, it definitely revitalized the series in one way, shape, or form, and I think is a pretty damn good movie. I don't think it's perfect, but I do think that it was a massive step above the last few entries, and it does get me excited for all the stuff coming in the future. But this movie does have kind of a split in fans that I've noticed, and I think a lot of that probably has to do with the direction that Dan Trachtenberg, who directed this movie, is going to take the series. He directed this one, The Animated Killer of Killers, and he's directing Predator Badlands, that I should have a review of that sometime this week as well. And that's what this review series has been building up towards, the release of Badlands. So it depends on if you like his style, his vision, his sensibilities, the kind of stories that he's crafting in these movies, and what he may or may not be building towards in the future, because he pretty much is running the ship right now as far as the Predator series goes. So, you know, whether you like this kind of renaissance of Predator is really going to depend on if you like Dan Trachtenberg as a creator. But the thing that I love about this movie, and that I don't know why it took them so long to do a film like this, is setting a Predator movie in a different time period. I think that that is ripe for opportunities, and that's why I love the Killer of Killers animated movie so much as well, because you got to see a little bit of the Viking Age, some of World War II, and this movie takes place in the 1700s, somewhere in the Great Plains, and it follows a Comanche tribe. And this also brings it back towards some of the themes of the original Predator, where Arnold kind of had to strip himself of all the modern weaponry, you know, cover himself in mud, set up the traps and everything, and face the Predator down in a far more primal kind of way. Well, here we have characters that pretty much have bows and arrows, axes, throwing axes, and knives, and that's about it. But also the Predator itself is a lot more primal than we're used to seeing it. I'm not very well versed in Predator lore outside of the movies themselves, so I don't know if there's a more expanded explanation for it, but I just assumed because this was a lot earlier in the timeline. But I like how the Predator looks in this film. Instead of the more advanced mask that we're used to seeing them wear, this one kind of has a skull mask that really only fits in the front of his face, as well as his weaponry is a little bit more primitive and a little bit more primal, but of course way more advanced than what human beings have, just not quite as crazy as the stuff the Predators have in, you know, Predator, Predator 2 in the original film. Instead of having a shoulder cannon, the 3 beams that target send out arrows, he's got a shield, you know, he has a couple of explosives and things like that, his spear, you know, he's got traditional Predator weapons, the blades that kind of come out of his wrist, but nothing quite as advanced as the stuff that we've seen in modern day. The main character of this movie is a girl named Naru, who's trying to prove her worth as a hunter, going out with her brother who is hunting and another group of hunters, and, you know, being kind of disregarded and pushed towards the back. No one really trusts her to be on the same level as everybody else. They're tracking down a cougar at first, and we see a lot of different animals kind of interacting. They are all CGI, which, you know, is a little bit of a bummer, but I will say that the CGI is mostly pretty good in this movie. There is, unfortunately, a lot of it. I would have preferred more practical effects, but again, I don't know what their limitations were with making this movie, and some of the CGI looks pretty good. One sequence involving a bear, it is very noticeable that it's a CGI bear, but at the same time, I think they did a really good job with it. So it doesn't take me out of the movie per se. I think they did a pretty good job making it look and act and move around like a bear would. But yeah, there is no denying that there is heavy use of CGI in this movie, and it is pretty noticeable. The other thing is obviously that all the main characters here are speaking English, and I don't necessarily think that they would be back in the 1700s here within this tribe, but at the same time, probably most people would not want to watch a movie that is all subtitled. I mean, I wouldn't really mind if it was, just to kind of lend towards that authenticity. But I get the reason why they didn't, because, you're trying to bring Predator back and you're trying to revitalize the series. And the last thing you want is to have a bunch of people click off the movie because they realize the entire thing is going to be subtitled. So have the characters speaking English. I get it. But I really wish that they had spoken in their native tongue throughout the course of the movie. I think that would have made it far more interesting. The other thing, too, is that the main story is rather cliche, but sometimes that's okay. I don't necessarily think that if you've seen a type of story before, that means it can never be done well again. Like here, we basically have the story of this girl, Naru, who is not respected by her peers, that is trying to be a hunter. People don't take her seriously. People don't think she's going to be worth something. And throughout the course of the movie, she has to prove her worth. She has to stand up for herself. She has to go through trials and tribulations, and she has to become the hunter that she wants to be, right? Facing down the ultimate prey, which is the predator itself, which is hunting everything else. And so, the story is simple. It's simplistic, but that doesn't necessarily make it bad. When you really break down a lot of different movies and shows and, books and whatever, a lot of them do focus on very similar story dynamics and motifs and cliches that have been done over and over again, but they put their own spin on them. They do them their own way, and they can add interesting, unique characters along the way. And so, even though I think the story, like Naru's story in this movie is, it's sort of like the hero's journey a little bit. You know what it's going to be as soon as the movie starts. That's basically what I'm getting at, is you understand what her journey is going to be, and you basically know what it's going to look like. It doesn't give away everything that's going to happen in the movie, but you know what her arc is going to be from the get-go, because it's something that feels very familiar, and that can be a plus or a negative. For me, it's kind of somewhere in the middle, because yes, it is a story that I feel like I've seen a bunch of times. However, I think that it's told very, very well in the movie, and in a very entertaining, exciting way with tons of bloodshed. And that's the kind of shit that I like. I also think, other than some of the CGI in this movie, I think that this is a very, very good looking movie, because obviously a lot of it takes place out in the middle of the woods. You see a lot of great landscapes and hilltops, and they do a number of creative things in different sequences of this movie. For instance, there is a entire scene, basically this big fight action scene that happens within this burned down forest with ashes kind of flowing in the sky, looking like snow falling and everything. And this is where the predator is taking out a ton of the fur trappers that show up in the movie in a variety of vicious, carnage-fueled ways that I absolutely adore. There's moments where it's picking up a trap and spinning it and then chopping it into somebody's head. Somebody tries swinging an axe at it. The predator is blocking it, chopping them in half. All of the different ways that the predator is just laying waste to all these fur trappers are just a beautiful sight to behold for anybody that loves a good amount of bloodshed in their movies. And just like the original Predator and Predator 2, I think one of the best aspects is seeing Naru slowly learn things about the predator without being told. And that's one thing that I can definitely praise the first two movies and this movie for, is that you didn't have some kind of lore dump or exposition dump or somebody that is already aware of the predator to explain these things. The characters just seem to notice things that are happening and put the pieces together themselves. For instance, Naru gets stuck in a trap, and then she loses her weapons, and she's laying on the ground, and she's defenseless, and the predator leaves her be when that happens, and she recognizes that, it's not going to attack you unless it views you as a potential threat or victory or something to hunt down. It takes pride into consideration. It has the heart and soul of a warrior, if you will. So she notices things like that. She notices how the helmet targeting system works, even though, you would have no frame of reference for how a scope works, back in the 1700s. She just sees it happen enough time. The red lights come out of here, they attach there, and then the arrows come out and hit. She learns these things as it goes along. She has to restring her bow a couple of times where she takes it out, she tries to draw it and then the string would drop off and she has to figure that out. And then she has to figure out, how to swing the axe properly and everything. And so you do get to see her kind of discover things about the Predator and discover different ways of fighting it as time goes along. And she also does have help out at first, and a lot of dead bodies that come before her that, she could see the ways that the Predator attacks and the ways that the Predator fights and stuff. And all of this is slowly getting, analyzed by her for the final battle that eventually happened. One thing that I did notice this time around that I don't know why I was so stupid and didn't notice the first time, probably because it'd been a really long time since I'd seen Predator 2, and this time I watched Predator 2 a couple of days ago, is that she does get a gun from one of the fur trappers, and it is literally the gun that shows up in Predator 2 and then Predator Killer of Killers. So the gun that Danny Glover's character gets handed at the end of Predator 2 is the gun that she gets from this guy and learns how to put the gunpowder in and how to fire off a shot. And it's the thing that gives her the one up on the Predator in this movie, because she's able to kind of hide herself from the camouflage or hide herself from the heat vision and then shoot the Predator, in the back of the head with the gun, which knocks its mask off and everything. And, is basically the deciding factor of how she wins the fight, because she's able to get the mask. So that was a really cool idea to tie it into Predator 2 and also cement the fact that, yes, this is in the same continuity, which is always good to hear. Sometimes franchises don't really pay attention, or they don't really care, is really what it comes down to. But I like when they take at least enough of an effort to say, yes, this does happen in the same timeline, in the same continuity, but it's not something big enough to where, like, if you don't notice it, like I don't think I noticed it the first time I watched the movie, it's not going to ruin the film for you if you don't catch the reference. But if you do catch the reference, it's just that kind of like extra nod to say, hey, yes, we are paying attention. We are fans of these movies ourselves, and so we want to throw these references in. I will say, though, during the final battle between Naru and the Predator, there are a lot of instances of just extreme luck happening. I just kind of contribute that to being movie suspense. Like, there's a moment where the Predator comes down with the shield and she falls, and she just so happens to fall between two rocks that are able to block the shield as the Predator comes down to try to hit her. Things like that happen. Now, generally, that's just stuff that happens in movies, and I don't worry too much about it, but I do think it is pretty noticeable in the final battle that there's at least like 2 or 3 instances like that where it's just extreme luck at play. But other than that, I do think this movie is a lot of fun, and I think it's really entertaining. I think it's got good suspense to it. I think it has great action scenes and kill sequences. Maybe a little too much dumb luck for the main character at certain moments, and I really wish they would have spoken in their native language throughout the entire film. But other than that, I think this movie is really, really enjoyable. And to me, and to a lot of other people as well, I think it definitely did revitalize and rejuvenate the Predator franchise to some degree. The best thing this movie does, in my opinion, is set the story in a different time period. I think that makes it unique. I think that's a creative choice, and I think they did well with doing that, and that's stuff that I would love to see more of from this franchise especially. Let's see a Predator, let's see a movie in the Viking Age with a Predator, let's see a movie in feudal Japan with the Predator, let's see a movie in medieval times with the Predator. I would love a whole string of movies that just did shit like that. Just set it in a different time period. Let's go all the way back to fucking caveman days and have a Predator show up. 2001, a Predator Odyssey. Like, I'll watch that shit. But until then, I am caught up with the Predator movies, so all that's left is Predator Badlands that comes out this week. And let me know what you guys think about Prey down below. Like, did you love it? Did you hate it? I know there's a lot of people that don't like it, but, for me, like I said, I think compared to the last couple entries, I think this is kind of a breath of fresh air. I love the premise. I like a lot of things that happen in this movie. Overall, I really enjoy it, but let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, give it a thumbs up and comment. Help it out in the algorithm. If you'd like to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon, channel memberships, and the social media links where you can follow me down below. Really appreciate it if you consider it. Even just $1 a month on Patreon goes a long way. It would mean a lot to me. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.